Budapest, as you see, the pandemic has had its effect on us because we are just like 60% of what we used to have here at the Ritz. But nevertheless, we're going to have a good time because we have so many familiar and new faces as well here. So today we are going to talk about many markets in Central and Eastern Europe, but we're also going to head to the Nordics, where we are going to touch based on Sweden and Denmark. I will not stretch this introduction too long. One thing you should note down, I will be saying this at every occasion that I got, that tonight we are hosting some drinks, and you can also grab some dinner at Fröccsteros VIP. It's right next door from the Ritz. Ask for the VIP section. It's reserved for us from 8:30. We are buying the drinks, so bring your family. All right, so I will start because I have to moderate two first panels because one of our moderators is missing. So I would like to invite my panelists on stage for the first session. Gábor, Helembai, Petr. I will read your name from my list. Dan Iliovici and Andrei Cosma to kickstart the first session. All right. So the first panel is about an industry update from Central and Eastern Europe, and we're focusing on Romania, Hungary, and Czechia, not Czech Republic, by the way. So I have with me today Dan Iliovici, Vice President at Rombet, Gábor Helembai, now Counsel at TaylorWessing, Hungary, Andrei Cosma, Managing Associate at SIMION and BACIU, and Petr Kozák from the Institute for Gambling Regulation. He's a lawyer and also Secretary General. All right, so I would just like to ask you guys to give a short introduction about yourself and your company, and then we kickstart the question. So let's start with Andrei. Andrei, you can grab a microphone from there. It's on.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me here. Thank you, Zoltán, for the introduction. My name is Andrei Cosma. I'm a business lawyer working in Romania with SIMION and BACIU. SIMION and BACIU is a boutique firm which handles several regulated industries. One of the focal points being gambling. We are assisting gambling clients for more than 10 years, representing both operators and suppliers, both land-based and online. Thank you again.
Dan Iliovici, thank you for being here. Thank you, Zoltán, for inviting us. I am Vice President at Rombet, which is an industry association for the both online and land-based operators, but also for service providers related to B2B for gambling industry. I'm also Vice President of the Responsible Gambling Association in Romania, which is running a lot of projects regarding responsible gambling, but we will speak about them in the afternoon at the Responsible Gambling panel. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Petr Kozák. I'm from Institute for Gambling Regulation from the Czech Republic, Prague. I'm for the first time in Budapest, and I'm very happy, and thanks, Zoltán, for it. Was like I'm here by hazard, luckily, because our director, most of you may know, Jan Řehola, is missing this time. So I hope you won't miss him so much, and I will be adequate like deputy. Our institute is a self-governing organization, and we represent like 95% of the Czech market, gambling market. We gather together operators and testing labs and hardware producers and so on. And we are trying to optimize the regulation and to deal with the ministry and all the state administration to make it somehow like better for the industry on behalf of what is the what are the industry ideas and so on. And we produce like responsible gaming project. It's our quite new project, doing very well, and we also fight against illegal gambling, which I can speak a bit later. So that's, I think, that's all.
Hi everyone, good morning. My name is Gábor Helembai and I'm practicing as an attorney at law since 2005, admitted to the Budapest Bar Association. And during this time, I have been advising a couple of offline and both online gaming operators, slot machine operators. So I have some experience in this industry, and I'm working for TaylorWessing, which is an international law firm having more than 28 offices in 18 countries, which is a truly international law firm focusing on the technology sector. So that's why, and also the reason why I'm here.
Thank you. So I just want to also point out that you have some small QR codes on the tables. That's one for the CEGE awards. You can start voting for your favorites because the voting will end at 2:00. So you better pick your favorites right now. So let's dive in. Okay, so I will start with the host country. So, hogy vagy Gábor? Most akkor kezdjük el magyarul. All right, I'm just kidding. We're not going to speak Hungarian. So there's some good news coming from Hungary, and we covered it overall. So could you maybe give a short introduction of the latest significant amendments of the Hungarian Gambling Act?
Yes, thank you, Zoltán. So good news or not good news, it's questionable, and that was in the details as usual. So you may all remember the news from the beginning of this year that the Hungarian government sent to the mandatory notification procedure to the European Commission the new amendment of the. Oh, sorry, I forgot to. Regarding
That's probably Mr. Viktor Orbán calling you.
Yes, yeah, because I started to speaking about the new gambling law, and it's a very important part of the Hungarian economy. Yeah. Yeah. So in the beginning, everyone was very happy because in general, the amendment proposal was about the liberalization of the Hungarian online gambling market. And finally, the new law was adopted by the parliament in the July of this summer. But if we go into the details, the situation is not so overwhelming. Why? The most important thing is that, or in short, operators of the EE countries may freely provide online betting services in Hungary with the license of the Hungarian authority. That's good news because currently only land-based casino operators are entitled to open an online casino. Moreover, online sports betting is the monopoly of the state-owned gambling operator. I forgot to say that the new regulation will enter into force from the 1st of January 2023. So currently the market is really, really restrictive. And you may also know that the Hungarian government has several problems with this regulation so far and conflicting with the European Court of Justice.
All right, so we can consider this as a new era for the online gaming industry in Hungary, starting from next year.
Yeah, it seems because if you look at the regulation itself, you don't have to apply for a concession. You only have to apply for a license, and if you meet the requirements set forth in the law, then you hopefully you can get a license to operate in Hungary. But it's very important to know that it only relates to online betting, and it does not concern online casinos. So online casinos remains in the, so to say, monopoly of the land-based casinos. So it will result in a very tricky situation for online operators who would like to operate both online casinos and online sports betting as well.
Got it. So you also mentioned you touched based on conflicts with the European laws. So is the new online betting regulation compliant with the principle of free movement of services within the EU?
Yeah, that's also one question, because in the new regulation, the requirements was set up that in a way that an online operator must establish some kind of subsidiary or branch in Hungary, based in Hungary, and the servers must based in Hungary. So some may say that it's not in compliance with the principle of free movement of services within the EU. So I won't be surprised if further legal disputes will continue before the Court of the European Union based on that.
As usual. So, yeah, so do online operators have the possibility to open a local shop? And how does this affect the current market?
Yeah, that's a very interesting new development, that the new law entitles the online operators to open betting shops or other kind of point of sale physically in the territory of Hungary, which was not the case before. Only the state-owned Szerencsejáték ZRT, the state gambling organizer company, has betting shops all around Hungary. So it will be a kind of competition for Szerencsejáték ZRT, and it may will cause huge impact on the Hungarian betting market.
Happy to see that we have some representatives of Szerencsejáték ZRT in the house, so they probably are very happy about this news. So yeah, so you also mentioned that the legal status of online casinos hasn't changed, and
Yes.
After opening the online betting market. So how this will be affected by the landmark CGE decisions?
Yeah, so that's the interesting thing, that the new regulation does not deal with the online casino regulation, which was contested before the European Court of Justice back in 2015 or 17, and two landmark CGU decisions were made in 2017, where the European Court of Justice established that the online casino regulation is not compliant with EU law, so therefore the online casino operators cannot be sanctioned. And that was the practice until now in Hungary. So the Gambling Supervisory Authority did not sanctioned or punished online casino operators so far. So it will be a very uncomfortable position, or very tricky position. For example, if a new online gambling operator gets a license for online betting, but on the other hand, it also operates an online casino on the same website. So I think we will see exciting times.
Yeah, it's like in Poland. We will touch base on Poland later, but they have something similar over there with the domains and stuff like that. Okay, so thank you, Gábor. I will come back to you with more questions a bit later.
Thanks.
And now we move to Czech Republic, to Czechia. So Peter, we were in Prague in June.
Yeah.
And we had some very interesting talks over there with people crying about the compliance regime in the Czech Republic. So what are the Czech market's latest developments? Maybe fill us in what happened since the beginning of the year, and maybe what happened since June, because we have the recordings from that, and maybe some of them.
Okay. So to have some basic idea, the Czech market and how the Czech market is big, we have like around the 57, 56 operators on the Czech market. Most of them still are land-based providers, but the online is now growing up just really much more quickly. yes, there are still some administrative things that are also very uncomfortable also for online. But nowadays the land-based, it's the people who are crying the most, because it's almost impossible to run a land-based business these times, especially like the gambling establishment or the casino with live game. It's regulated on the two levels. It's the state regulation, which is the most strict, and then it's regulated again on the municipality level. And the most of the big cities and like bigger towns, it's restricted where the municipal regulation usually is zero gambling establishments in a lot of towns and cities in the Czech Republic. So since the beginning of the year, I think there is one big thing, and for the first period of the year, the first quarter, there was I think the record of the tax income, gambling tax income, after since 2017. That's the year that we started to monitor this. So it was maybe because of the end of the pandemic. There is the biggest, I think, income was from the live game and from the technical game still, and online already takes a half of it, like 1.8 billion crowns or something like this, and the total tax income from the gambling games is like it touches almost 4 billion crowns for this period of time. And since June, I don't know if we were talking about this, but now it's clear that the new amendment of the Gambling Act will come, and it will come into force in 2024. So ministry is already working on it. We were told that by the end of the summer there will be a draft, but there is not. We are invited on the.
It was vacation time. Yeah.
Yes. That they still don't know with a lot of topics how to deal with them, and we will have some meeting on the end of the September. I think we will deal with it with a switch from the territorial principle to the availability. Targeting to availability. That's what I wanted to say.
Yeah, I remember when in Prague, when Jakub was looking at the camera and said, if the Ministry of Finance is watching this.
Yes.
So are these? Do you know anything about these upcoming amendments? Maybe that you can share.
Yes, of course. There are a few topics. There are a few topics that we know about, because I think the ministry is like a little bit like a wizard, showing us only the part of the future that they want us to see. We are not sure that they show us everything, but there is one big thing that's this switch from the targeting principle of online games to availability principle, and this is connected very closely with the fight against the illegal online gambling, because we have a very huge, I think, illegal online gambling in Czech Republic. We don't even know how big it is.
But it's there.
But it's there, and the process of searching and then the administrative procedure. I've made some notifications to the customs administration last September, and the administrative process is still not finished. So you can see. So they want to switch to availability principle. That would means that they won't have to show if it's in Czech language, if it's in Czech crowns, the bets and so on, and it will be, and also the process of blacklisting or the blockation of these illegal services should be much easier. Then there's only thing, I hope it won't target somehow in a negative way the legal online services, and that's why we will be here to say, hey, this is okay and it is not. Hopefully.
Yeah, I think they have been listening to the conference in Prague, haven't they? It seems, because since they started targeting like availability and languages on websites. I remember that that was the point in Poland as well. So they maybe were taking example from that market. So highest possible bet unification, online versus land-based. What could you tell us about that?
That's a bit controversial topic. It came from the industry, but the idea was higher maximum bet in gambling establishments like land-based. So because today, nowadays, it's 100 crowns, and on online it's 1,000 crowns. So the idea was to rise this small amount, 100 crowns, for example, to 500 or to 1,000 as it is in online. And the ministry took it and say, okay, we will make one single maximum bet, and it will be same for all, and it will be, for example, 700. And then we can say, hey, that was not the like how we wanted it. So now it will be a topic to discuss, because if it's like this for online, it's quite not very bad, but it's not very good. So maybe it will be better to leave it as it is. Sometimes when you want, you have a good idea and you propose it to the administration, and you get back something that you say, oh, leave it as it was before. So that's the situation with this.
All right. So the next topic is like from a James Bond movie when they have code names. So it's the standardization of the information obligation for internet games.
Yes, it's a
STOIG.
it's an addictological part of our movement in the Ministry of Finance. We think that all these information are quite enough, that are like in the situation, and that's the attitude that we want to go to the meetings and to discuss it with state administration, that if there are some of these instruments and so on, we already make it, and we make it in our responsible gaming project, and the providers and operators do it voluntarily, and they do it as a self-regulation, and that's maybe much better, and the instruments also works better than to do it as a state regulation, because it's never done as good as it can be done by the industry. And also the industry will have the negative attitude to it because it will be regulated from the top. Yeah. So it's better to do it from the bottom. And we already have all these instruments. So we will try to show that these instruments work. And we work together with some addictologists and other occupations and so on, like from the psychological and legislative part of, and also the people from the state administration are there also. So I hope this can work, and we can have some reasonable compromise on this.
All right, so most probably people know that when we are talking about Czech Republic, usually there's a lot of developments. It seems like a regulator and politicians over there are very busy. Even now with the winning the jackpot, because this was also a subject with the probability of winning the jackpot in a technical game. They also touched based on that as well.
Yes, I think that was the idea that we already touched in June. Still, we don't know where this came from, and we don't know how it will end, because during summer we elaborated some arguments against this, and we gathered together the arguments not only from the operators but also from the technical hardware producers, and they say, hey, this can be very complicated in some kind of games and in some kind of like systems, to in each spin to show the probability of winning a jackpot. And we didn't get back the information why is this necessary, because this information, I think if I don't know if someone of you has some kind of experience with things like this, and if it's from the addictological point of view, maybe it can only even more, you will be more willing to play when you see that the probability is higher. So I can't see the sense of this, and we will maybe be more clever after the next meeting if this will be the topic. But we have from the whole industry, we have a big no to this.
Yeah, I seen that Robert was nodding his head about this. You want to add something? Okay. All right, so they also touched base on live dealer games. Very busy.
I think with live dealer games, we are very busy. They still have the attitude that they don't want it. But I think there is a small step towards move forward. There was from in the beginning it was just no. Now it's 20% yes. But you still have to elaborate on more and more arguments how to make it. And there are a few possibilities. The ministry, I think the favorite variety for the live dealer game is that it will be streamed from the land-based casinos in the Czech Republic, which is a little bit discriminative in our point of view, because there can be also big online operators and even also the foreign operators. So that's maybe something similar as in your country, that only land-based operators can have the online casino. So this will be the same, but it will be with the live dealer game, because they say that's the only thing. How can we have the control over it? But I think if you look at a lot of different states around, I think it was Croatia already has it, and Latvia or Lithuania, and everywhere it make the market growing bigger and the income also. So and there have no problems, or I don't know about the problems with the control. I think it is under control in the same way as when you have online slot games or something, or online anything. I don't see the problem, and there is still hope that it will finally be allowed in Czech Republic to have the online live dealer game. So.
All right, so thank you. I still have questions for you, by the way, but now
Okay.
I will move to Dan. Bună ziua, putem începe în limba română.
Mulțumesc, poftă bună.
Okay, so we're not going to speak in Romanian this
No.
time either way. I did not know Czech, so that's why I did not speak with Peter in Czech. So Dan,
You should learn some Czech.
Yeah, it's high time to. All right, so there is many changes in Romania, right? So there's also very talked about vice tax, which we can now elaborate with the audience. Do you think it's fair to have such a tax?
We had in Romania, we had a hot summer. It was not only the temperature was hot, but also the government makes it hotter because they need money. I don't know about Hungary
Everyone
and the
does.
Czech Republic, but in Romania, they are so hungry about money. So they invented everything to bring more money to the state budget. The vice tax was in place previously, but they increased it by 125%. And more interestingly, it came in force immediately in July on the 18th. So the next day it was published, the government ordinance, it was in place. The most interesting thing, the most let's say unfair thing, was that before this new regulation, if you have a slot machine and you keep it in a warehouse, do not operate it for 1 month, 2 months, 3 months for different reasons, you should have not paid the vice tax because it doesn't produce any, let's say, collateral victims for the gambling industry. But now, the simple fact that you own a gambling machine or some sort of platform, you should pay the tax regardless if it's operating or not. This is why we suggest that this is totally unfair. It has to be paid in advance. So again, regardless, maybe the slot machine will get broke and it will never operate for the next year, but you have to pay the vice tax in advance. Again, I think this is only to bring some money to the state budget, and they do not care about problem gambling, or they pack it like some sort of measure to problem gamblers, but in fact, it's only about the money. They also introduced some administrative taxes, fees.
Just one second.
Yes.
How much is this tax, by the way? This fee?
It's related to the type of games. It's not so big. Increased, I told you, about 125%. On our website, on rombet.com, there is a page in English also where every single tax and requirement in order to operate all type of games in Romania is fully described. I don't have all the figures by hand, but
so everyone can head to rombet.com to check out the fees.
Exactly. On the legal page, you'll find every single requirement, including this kind of taxes. They introduced administrative fees, which are going, money are going not to the state budget, but to the National Gambling Office, to the authority. If you have, if you apply for a license, for an online license, you have to pay for online games 3,000 euros. For land-based games, 500 euros. License issuance fee, it's roughly 9,500, almost 10,000 euros. And interestingly, again, for online games, if you want to add some games to your platform, you have to pay for each game, again, a tax of 150 euros. This is somehow
counterproductive.
Yes, I think they looked at the UK Gambling Commission, where you have to pay some taxes. I'm not familiar exactly with the amounts, but if the National Gambling Office, it's under the Ministry of Finance, it's financed directly from the state budget. Why do we have to pay again some money to them? It will be some complication also in the on the regulatory side, in what they should do with the money, how they spend it, but it's not our problem, it's their problem. These are the administrative fees, another way to take some money from the gambling industry.
And does this affect the industry a lot, or?
Well, it's not a huge tax, but it's again something that is on top of everything. You should take care of it, to pay it, to again, it's not such a big mess, but every single fee, every single tax, every single regulation that it's added and added, as our colleague from Czech Republic said. By the way, it was interesting that you mentioned that in the Czech Republic, you have the regulation, the gambling regulation, and on top of that, or underneath, it's the local administration, which is issuing some norms. In Romania, happily, we in the gambling law, it's stipulated that no other entity, state entity, should interfere in the gambling activity. So no municipality can bring some crazy ideas, no local council, nobody. It's only the gambling law and the gambling authority. These are the main and the single authorities that maybe you should suggest to your ministry to do the same, to keep it under a single hand.
Yeah, there are also some changes coming to the fiscal code, and just wanted to ask, when does these taxes come into force, or are they already in force?
They are already in force.
Also, they are already, and they are producing effects already.
Sorry?
They are producing effects already, negative, positive?
No, it's not a big deal, but it's not. What operators were very much aware, it's the next one, which is the tax on the gambler's income.
Yeah.
This was the tough one, because generally in Europe, not many jurisdictions apply a tax on the player's income from the gambling activity. So it was previously a small tax, 1% till roughly 65,000 run, and what was exceeding this amount was about 30%. But now they put some steps on these on the income of the player, and it's a tax scale. It's 3% from the income withhold at from the player, withhold by the gambling operator, 3% for income less than 2,000 euros. It goes up to 20% for less than 14,000 euros, and it runs for 40% for what exceeds 14,000 euros. The initial initiative of the government was to tax everything with 40%, 40, which was absolutely crazy. Luckily, they understood the position of the industry, of our association, other associations, and they introduced these steps, which are, let's say, acceptable. When you want to make a very bad decision, you show first the ugly part and then start negotiation, like in every negotiation. And finally, the industry was so happy that they increased it in these steps. It's also in place since 1st of August. The fiscal code. These, before I hand over to my colleague from Romania, I will be shorter because he has also a lot to talk about changes in the regulation from this hot summer. The fiscal code, they changed the tax on the dividend from the gambling operators from 5% to 8%. It's not a huge increase, but it increased, and it's also, again, on top of other taxes and fees. And in Romania, there is still a certain type of small companies which are called micro companies. They have to meet some certain regulation on turnover less than few 100,000 euros. They have to have some employees and so on. But the interesting thing about the gambling industry, the gambling operations are automatically excluded from this category of micro companies. The micro companies are paying a tax on the turnover and not on the profit. So now they will have to pay, everybody from the gambling industry will have to pay the normal, the usual tax on the profit.
Yeah, it's been a hot summer. People need money.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So, Andrei, maybe you have some better news, but I know you don't. So, besides these taxes on Vice, etc.,
We have more.
Yeah, I know we have more.
Yeah, so
and now comes the depressing part. So, advertising tax.
yeah, also starting with July, we have a new advertising tax. It's a tax for outdoor and TV advertising. The good news is that it does not apply to online advertising or advertising done within stadiums or sport venues. Yet, yeah, that's right. The amount is 5% of the value of the advertising services, and the mechanism, in theory, it's simple. In practice, it's of course complicated. So it should work like this. Operators need to send to the gambling regulator every advertising contract. The regulator looks at the price and then they pay this 5%. The problem is that most of the advertising contracts, of course, have not been signed after this change of the law. They've been signed years ago. So we asked the regulator, what should we do? Do we notify these old contracts? And they said no. And we say, okay, that sounds good. But then it doesn't make sense on the other end, because the reason for notifying a contract is for the regulator to see the price in that contract so they can see if you calculated correctly the tax. It doesn't have any other sense to notify. And the second problem is that usually because operators do not have contracts directly with TV channels or with, I don't know, blog owners or whatever, they have contracts with media agency. And that contracts provide for a package of services under a package of a price, an aggregated price, which includes production, creative, and so on.
Sometimes maybe online advertising as well.
Exactly, consultancy, everything, and it's an aggregated price on that contract. So the question arises: which is the taxable base? Because of course, if you pay on the price that you pay to the media agency, it's a lot. If you pay only for the price that the media agency in turn pays the TV channel to give you the time slots, then it's a lot less. Unclear until now. It's just a new tax. It's, as Dan said, it's something that they created this summer. I'm pretty sure they stood at the table there and said, "Yeah, we need this money. It doesn't matter how." So this is where we are with this new advertising tax.
I think this is going to snowball to the media agencies as well, because for now they had this bulk package, and now they have to work more on contracts and maybe detail each price so that they calculate this thing. That means more staff, so that means more hiring, so that means more taxes. So
exactly,
yeah, there's a logic behind these.
Maybe, but I don't think even if there is a logic, and I think that some of us can agree that at least in Romania there is a lot of advertising. Maybe it should be, I don't know, controlled or whatever. But make it clear, because if you make it clear, I'm sure that the market will somehow comply. But not like this. Just pay me 5% of by overnight, and you don't tell me how to calculate that.
Yeah, so there's also the increase of the gambling taxes. Maybe you would like to also cry about those.
Yes, of course. All taxes have increased. This is the bottom line. So every gambling tax has increased. For the online sector, the increase is pretty dramatic. So initially we had a GGR tax of 16%. Now it's 23%. We had a license tax paid on an annual basis, which ranged between 6,000 euros per year until 120,000. It depended on the turnover. Now it's between 15,000 euros and 312,000 euros. And a lot of operators are paying this 312,000 euros because it's very easily, you exceed the turnover, the maximum turnover very easily. But also on the land-based sector, all taxes have increased, as also Dan said, also the vice tax, also the authorization tax. And besides this, one significant change is that they also increased the license fee for the B2B. And there the market has a problem because at least the online market relies on affiliates. And as we all know, a lot of affiliates are startups or small companies trying to get bigger. So we had a license fee of 6,000 euros per year, plus an additional 1,000 as a contribution. So 7,000 per year. Okay. Now they are asking 9,500 plus 1,000 plus an additional 9,500 in the first year to issue you the license. So we had cases exactly in July when the law changed, where we submitted license application for affiliates. This was at the beginning of the month. And the clients asked us, how much do we need to pay? And we said, simple, 7,000. And then I need to call them like 2 days later saying, no, you need to pay 20,000 now, because everything changed overnight. And there was no, I'm sure Dan can agree, there was no public consultation on how these taxes have increased, especially on the B2B side.
Yeah, so maybe people don't know that in Romania there's a coalition now between the left and the right, or I don't know which one are they. So it's very interesting to see their taxing ideas and how they're struggling. It's a menage a trois, says Dan. All right, so what's next? Blacklist. Yeah, there's also some news about the blacklist where they have a new definition for the blacklist for gambling websites and also for brands.
Yeah. So we had the concept of the blacklist existed since the gambling law has been reformed in Romania since 2015. The bottom line was the blacklist includes gambling websites that were not licensed in Romania and did not pay the taxes that they needed to pay. And we had now like almost 1,400 websites there. In July, they changed the definition, saying that the blacklist does not include only websites; it includes brands, platforms, application, everything. So they made the definition a lot more broader. So now I don't know how you can get from that blacklist out if you want, but the big problem is that a lot of big companies have entered this blacklist in 2015. A lot of big brands, and they are still there. And the law says that the regulator should issue an order clarifying how you can get out, how can you be removed, and nothing happened. This is dating now for more than 7 years. So this is essentially, it's a, how to call it, a trick to close somehow the market, because if you have your brand there, you cannot get out, and you don't know what you need to do to be removed, because there is no regulation. We asked the regulator, they said, yeah, we know it's a problem and we know it should be fixed and we know we can stay like with this market status forever. But this was 1 year ago. We asked 2 months ago. Soon, it's gonna happen soon. And again,
maybe they will say that they need to pay a tax for that as well, and they can go out from the blacklist.
I'm sure the big brands will pay the tax.
Yeah, but there are 2 big guys on that list, by the way, from 2015, who have been excluded for 10 years, as far as I remember.
I mean, yeah, from 2015 until now.
Yeah, we're talking about Bet365 and bwin, who got their license in 2015 when the market opened, and they started already advertising as far as I remember, and they were not allowed to advertise.
Yeah, so there is a debate there.
Yeah, there is. So they are still on the blacklist.
Yeah, man.
Okay. So there's also an update on the tombola, on the raffle reviews and tickets.
Yeah, this is also a funny one. So we had tombola raffle games regulated from the very beginning, from 2015. No license haven't ever been issued for this kind of activity. And in last year, in 2021, the regulator posted an announcement on the website saying that even though some operators applied for the tombola license, they cannot grant the license because the legislation is not good. This was the message. So they will postpone the granting of this license until the legislation is updated.
They figure out the tax.
I don't know the specifics of those cases, but it's not even necessary to know them, because if you apply for something, it's a gambling license or whatever, and you comply with the law, then you need to have that right. I really don't care if the legislation is not good enough. Maybe I assume the regulator had a point, because there were some missing parts in the legislation. Now they changed it and they made it better. I don't know, more complete. So probably we will see tombola or raffle licenses on the Romanian market soon, but nothing happened.
Yeah, I was going to ask which regulator, because I know that there is 2 regulators in the past 2 years or 2.
Yeah, different presidents. But
I don't even know who it is right now. So
me neither.
So that's good.
It's the vice president, the former vice president, who took the attributions of the president for a limited period of time till the new president will be nominated by the government. So in fact, there is no president, but somebody has to sign the documents. So it's a vice president which has the attribute to sign those documents.
Vice regulator.
Yes.
All right. So I'm going to jump back now to Gábor. So if Mr. Orban is sitting in the room or has some microphones over here,
I'm sure.
What would the taxes look like for the online betting market? Or maybe what would you wish it would look like?
Currently, the tax on online betting is 15% on the net gaming revenue, which is not so bad.
No, it's not.
No other fees, no nothing.
50%, that's all?
Yeah. Yeah, and the licensing fee is 1.5 million euros for 7 years.
That's not all.
I mean, yeah, but that's the tax, but you have to pay the license fee. But it lasts for 7 years.
And how does the licensing procedure look like? Is it easy or is it?
I had discussions with technician guys, and they told me that the technical requirements are quite high and not easy to comply with the requirements, but it's not impossible.
So it's also outsourced to yeah, it's not impossible. It's also outsourced to gaming laboratories.
To tell the truth, we had not experience so far because we are in the beginning of the process. So only Szerencsejáték ZRT had license. So maybe we
should
them.
ask them. All right. So thank you, Peter. Also in Prague, I remember that there was some talks about licensing of a game, which is quite a hassle that you need to double check it. The gaming laboratory has to check it. Then the government has to also check it. And this gives a hassle on promotion because if you were, I remember that I think Jan from Endorfina was telling us that if you want to produce a slot game for a certain like Halloween or Christmas, you need to think ahead and release it in February because there's a lot of things to do till then. So has this process been improved or is the same? Or maybe you can tell us something about this type of licensing and
yeah, it's still the same. It will take much longer time than just from the spring or something. But yes, the discussion with the Ministry of Finance already started. We took this message not only from our members, but also as we heard from Endorfina and newcomer. It was Betano. They already joined our association also, and this was the two things. That one thing is to issuing a new license, which is the process for someone it's almost for 1 year, and the other thing is the changes to the game plan, which has to be notified to the ministry, and it's assessed by the ministry every single new game. So that's why usually they took a package of a lot of new games and put it as a one change of the game plan. But the ministry say more games you change for one time or once, the longer it will take because we have to assess. And there's the problem that the producers of the games should produce the game plan, and they send it to the Ministry of Finance to approve it. And when the operator wants to enter this game into his portfolio, he has to again send the game plan to the Ministry of Finance to approve it. And there are a lot of situations that once approved game plan was sent by the operator then to the ministry, and there was some other guy maybe assessing it, as I said, and he put it back with the corrections. So this process, and the biggest problem is that the first part of this process, that means you are waiting, someone will let you know what is happening with your
at a certain time.
Yeah, it takes 1 month and a half usually. That's the average time that you send something to the ministry, and there is 1 month and a half absolute quiet, and you don't know if it's like from the Kafka. You don't know if something is happening, or is everything wrong, or everything is all right. But that's the first step was made. We discussed this, and we presented all these like cryings to the Ministry of Finance, and they didn't say absolutely no, we don't know about this, and that's not our problem. It's everything's yours problem. I think they acknowledge that the problem is on both sides. Sometimes it's that the farmers, the game plans and so on are not in the quality that they should be, but on the other hand, these like absolutely unreasonable long-term this timing and so on, and that when only just to make the first step take 1 month and a half, it's really so the first step was made, but the improvement will take time.
Same as everywhere. So then maybe, is it the same in Romania? How is the licensing? Is it the same, or maybe you can explain the procedure, or has it been eased in the past years, or?
Well, in fact, I think Kafka was Czech, and but we took a lot of his heritage to Romania also. Unless what our colleague mentioned from Romania, there are some, let's say, a lot of things, not a lot, many things to be improved in the gambling law. It's in force, the basic gambling law is in force since 2015. And it's acceptable somehow that nobody knew how things will develop, how new type of games, new sort of businesses will come up. And having this 7 years of practicing based on the that law, it is clear that there are many ways in which this could be improved. And we are in the process of discussion on association side with our members, with the operators, and with the authority, because when I was in charge at the gambling office, I realized that a lot of problems rise also on our on the authority side. They do not know how to, as it is a case now with, for example, with the advertising tax. They have to apply the law, but if the law is not quite clear for them, it's understandable. They do not know how to apply it, and I have to say that they are afraid to interpret the law in the benefit of the operator. They prefer either to take a time of 1.5 months, no answer at all, or they are waiting for some changes, for some clarification from discussions to know how to change it. So the good news in Romania is that hopefully the law will change and it will become more clear, more applicable, more reasonable, and beneficial for both sides, also for the operators, but for the government, also for the authority also.
Andrei, you would like to add to that? It's a maturing market already.
It is, and I totally agree with that. There are many occasions where the fault is not at the level of the regulator, it's just how the legislation is so poorly drafted and unclear. And the regulator's responsibility is to apply. But if they don't know how to apply something, it's a mess. Especially also with Dan said about these new taxes to launch new online games. Again, they don't know. They apply one inspector from the regulator told us something, another one told something else. But yeah, improving the legislation, it's of course desirable. The market is maturing, and I think that the increase in taxes may restructure a bit the market. Some small players might not survive. Some big players might strive because of lack of competition. We'll see.
All right, so I'm going to open up the floor for questions. If somebody has any question for either of the speakers, just raise their hands, please. Yeah, I will bring you the microphone. I think that's the best way. I hope I'm not going to trip on anything. Here you go.
Thank you. I've got a question in regard to Hungary and the amendments to the legislation. One paragraph says that if an operator offered kind of illegally anywhere in the world, there's a kind of 5 years of blackout before they can apply for a license. How is illegal defined in this regard? Thank you.
Yes, thank you. That's true. There's a restriction in the new law saying that if you were engaged in illegal gambling in the past 5 years before filing the application, you are not allowed to get the license. And the law says that if such illegal gambling is established by resolution of the competent authority of an EEE country or the Court of the European Justice, or sorry, so Court of one European country.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions? Okay, so in the meantime, if you have some questions, just raise your hand or break a glass or something. I will look that way. So let's move on to the final part of this session. I do a small exercise since everybody has pointed out the views and new topics and amendments. Maybe you should want to ask each other some questions, maybe about the certain regulations that you might be asking in the networking break. You can do it right now. So Gábor, maybe you have any questions from the panelists.
I'm thinking. I pass on the.
Oh, if I think Andrei has one.
I have one for the Czech Republic. So why don't they allow live casino? What's the reasoning? What's so dangerous in it?
Yeah. The main reasoning was that when it will be streaming from some only live studio, it won't be streaming from the land-based casino that they know and they have allowed in the territory of Czech Republic. For example, it will be streamed. They will be streaming it from another country. There won't be any possibility to control it. But I think it's the same when you are making online games and the servers are, for example, on Malta. It's the same situation. That this argument we already sent to them. And the other thing, if they will make it streaming it only from the casinos, land-based casinos or land-based premises allowed on the territory of the Czech Republic, they are afraid that it won't be according to the European law. So these are two main, I think, arguments that, and we tried to cover both of them. So, and now we are waiting if they will say, yes, your arguments were quite enough, or they
are
say,
just 20%.
Yeah, that was before we send them all our arguments. They say it's 20% that we say yes, and we will put it into the legislative process. So that's the situation.
Yeah, the reason why I was asking this is because in Romania it's quite a big market for live streaming, and it's regulated. It works. Big studios, big streamers are there. That's why.
We also made some like comparison of when the live dealer game entered or was allowed on the market. I think it was Croatia and one Baltic state, and it was absolutely evident that the income of the gambling games and the popularity raised up when the live dealer game was allowed.
If I may question for Gábor, what is the case for the slot halls, slot machines in land-based in Hungary? Are they now allowed or still only in live casino, in the big live casinos?
Yes, you're right. There's nothing changed in this respect of the law. So you can install slot machines only in land-based casinos. And there are very few of them, casinos in Hungary. So there's not much possibility to.
I know when the law changed suddenly overnight, I think that your prime minister was in close relation with the one big casino operator, and they planned to make a huge casino near the Austrian border. Does it took live this live casino, or it's still a project, or they completely abandoned?
No, it was completely failed in the end of the day, but it was an old story, and that particular casino was not. The owner was not in close connection with neither Mr. Orbán nor Mr. Gyurcsány, so maybe that was the reason.
It was a reason. Okay, thank you very much.
I think Dan is looking to have an escort to the airport today. All right, so we have a question over there, Alex from GLI.
From GLI, yes, thank you. Gábor, I have a question to you. As I remember, the draft law for Hungary and online sports betting, there was also mentioned that this would only apply for operators that haven't acted illegal within the European Union over the last 10 years. So we all know that this market actually has been a gray zone for a while. Some operators also settled or with regulators and stepped into a legal operation. This was also the time our markets haven't been regulated already. So how is this to be interpreted from legal perspective? Or what does this mean? The last 10 years, no illegal activities are within the European Union or EEA markets.
Yes, thank you for the question, and that's a very good question. And to be precise, the final version of the law contains that only 5 years is needed to be without illegal gambling activity. So 10 years was reduced to 5 years. And as I mentioned previously, the law says that you don't have to. I mean, any of the European Union union's member states competent authorities do not issue the resolution against the operator that you were sanctioned or participated in illegal gambling. So, and another court judgment occurred in the past 5 years. So that's the basic wording of the law, but how it will interpret it, that's a very good question. Some says that maybe that will be the most important part of the new law, because that could be a reason to squeeze out a lot of operators from the competition. So we will see from 1st of January how the authority will interpret this particular provision of the law. We do not have any information in advance how it will be interpreted, unfortunately.
Yeah, they have to figure out how to write Unibet on that list.
Well, it's the question. Yeah, we have court decisions, of course. We have sanctions are made by regulators. And then we had actually the fact that some were warned or have actually settled their situation with the regulator before it came actually to a sanction or any kind of judgment. Yeah.
Yeah. So as I told you, that's the very tricky part, and one of the most important parts of the new regulation.
Okay, so let's move to the closing remarks. So we are sitting here. Yeah, one more question. Wow. True, actually. He was first.
Yeah, Gábor is quite popular today. I have a question for you.
Thanks for
we have a lot in common when it comes to the Polish and Hungarian legislation. You mentioned that there is a requirement to establish a branch or a subsidiary in Hungary. What are details of the legislation wording? Because this is kind of a tricky, because you know that according to the ECJ, this kind of limitations may result in challenging the legislation and restricting the freedom of movement of providing services. So are there any details that will allow the government to actually move smooth with this legislation and allow the offshore operators to step in to enter the market?
Yeah, actually the law says that there are two options. Either you establish a Hungarian limited liability company who will be the subsidiary of the international operator, and this particular Hungarian company will submit the application for the license. Other option is that you don't establish a Hungarian limited liability company, but only a branch office, which is very common within the EU, and the mother company should take care of providing the necessary financial, personnel, and all requirements to this Hungarian branch. But under Hungarian law, this branch should be registered in the Hungarian company register. So from a practical point of view, it's more or less the same. So you have to go through the court registration process. And moreover, you also have to have a Hungarian resident who will be the representative of the branch. So, yes.
So there's another question.
Thank you very much. Barbosa from Tremo. My question relates to a new regulation adopted during the summer, and it's a regulation at a European level called the Digital Services Act. You might have heard of it, and it relates to the user-generated content on different online platforms. So my question is to the liability of online platforms related to user-generated content, and it's to some extent, it's a game changer legislation, definitely for video sharing platforms and social media platforms. And we are working together with a gaming, one of the major gaming platforms globally, looking at the regulation. It seems it applies to them since there are chats and all kind of user-generated content while people are playing games, whether it's a war game or any kind of game. My question is just your impression about whether you think how it's going to impact the industry. Is it something you have been looking at? It's a general question to any of you who has any view on this. Thanks.
Who would like to pick this up?
I will pick this only because I know about it and I've heard about it. I was dealing with this before when I was working for the Czech media regulator, and I was looking at what it will mean to the gambling operators and the platforms and so on. But still, I was searching around the Czech Ministry of Commerce and so on, and still, I to be honest, I can't see any bigger changes in the attitude to these services. In the sense of this, there is it has to be really the thing that is dealing with now. It's not just the fight against the illegal content and the harmful content, but still it didn't affect in any way. It didn't affect the Czech gambling online operators and so on. I don't know about it. That maybe it will come if it's still the digital services sector. I think it's quite new. Yeah. So maybe it was not it, and it's directly. It's the So it should be affecting the market right now, but still, to be honest, I don't know about some very visible effects on this.
I guess this would be the topic for 2023 when we get back here. So, since there are no more questions, I would like to thank actually my panelists for joining me here today, and let's give them a round of applause because this was such an awesome big starter panel. And right now we're going to have a 30 minutes coffee break. I know many of you already had their first coffee, so it's now time for coffee number 2 and some snacks. And we will be get back with more talks and with the next session. Thank you for joining. Thank you.